Water is life. It fuels our bodies, our homes, our farms, our futures. Yet millions of Indians every day face water scarcity. It's a huge problem that demands innovative solutions and strategic partners like business and industries which can help, like the Hindustan Unilever, which through its foundation is not only helping conserve water in parts of India, but is helping communities take ownership and control of their water sources. Hello and welcome to 3D, the Development Design Digest, where we look at a whole of society approach, a design approach to rural development. And today I'm talking with Shraman Jha, who is the CEO of the Hindustan Unilever Foundation. And he is someone who can bridge that gap between the corporate world, which is a target-driven leadership, and bridge it to the demands of human demands and the idea of community taking ownership. Mr. Shah, thank you very much for joining us today on 3D. I appreciate your time, and I want to start first with how someone who does come from a business and a corporate background in consumer goods, media, education, how on earth do you move from that to rural development?
Thank you so much for having me here, Lindy. And in fact, the words you started off with, water is life, in a way that translates to the core of what has become my organization, the foundations, as well as my personal mission now, which in Hindi, we put it as a hashtag, Jal, Aaj aur Kal, which translates to water not just for today, but also for tomorrow.
Yes.
So as water flows, I think my life has also flowed, and I was honestly quite blind to so many dimensions of societal needs and so on, especially with respect to the environment and the particular role of water. Till almost serendipitously, around the age of 50, I started moving almost full time into the social sector, and a whole new world opened up for me. And it's been learning every day, fabulous learning, being grounded, closer to realities. It's been a fascinating bit. It does work to have had the grounding in the corporate sector, because the social sector requires not just the heart, but it also requires a certain degree of the head in terms of professional management competencies just to be effective. If you really want to deliver, you want to be effective. So I think in that stage, the meandering of life has brought me to the place where I've most cherished and valued my purpose, almost, as it were. I found it late, but I think I found it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, we'll dig into a little bit more to that later on. But I'm very curious, what is the difference? You hinted at it, but tell me, what is the difference between the corporate world and the social sector, and what can they learn from each other?
Oh, there's a huge amount that they can learn from each other, and you'll be thrilled to know that famous management gurus, the likes of Porter and even the marketing guru Kotler, they've written papers on what for-profits can learn from the not-for-profit sector. So it's actually a fabulous treatise. I think the big thing and the big difference is that in a for-profit sector, corporate sector, there are many more dimensions in your control in terms of the finances, in terms of the decisions you make. What makes it more difficult in the not-for-profit sector, and that's the core difference, is that you are working with and for society. And they have to be entirely with you, or you have to be entirely with them if you wish to bring about the desired kind of changes. And that requires a very fundamentally higher level of empathy to be able to see things from their viewpoint.
But let me just push back on that and play devil's advocate a little. Because if you have a product, you, in the open market, you would sell the product, and if it works, then you know it's working. And if it's purchased, or if the goods or services are purchased or utilized, great, it's working. And if it's not, then you know, okay, the community doesn't like it, and you pivot and you readjust. Why can't we do that in the developing world?
Because in the for-profit world, you also have additional devices such as advertising. These which impact you, impact how you are perceived, and that is something that you can tailor, control, command, the intensity, impact, etc. In the social sector, those resources are far lower, so you have to be with them, and the ability and the changes you try to bring about are more profound, very often very basic to the way lives have been led, and therefore much slower in the way those transshipments can happen. So it's a far deeper level of understanding, which of course is required in both, but the tools that you have to work with are significantly different.
Okay, so each side can learn from each other. That's good, and the tools can be catered to each side. But let's talk a minute about the design approach, because that is all the rage, and it has been the rage in the corporate world for a long time. It's now become crucial. People are realizing how crucial it is to development. What's your experience with it? What's your belief in it? Do you think that the social sector, the developing world, needs a little more of that sort of holist society, eagle eye view?
Entirely, because you cannot solve for bits and pieces. It's almost like the human body. Even if you are treating a particular organ in the human body, you need to be aware what are there potentially other aspects to it, or how other parts of the body will respond. Similarly, in society, there are so many interconnected pieces. You need to be aware of that. The other dimension, however, is also very specific, that any change you make, while it might have the broader good of society, somebody or the other will always get impacted adversely. Let me give you an example. Many of the Indian villages till about 10-12 years back did not have reliable electricity. So there was a very profitable trade to be done with diesel generators. If you needed it, you paid for it. And when electricity gets more reliable, and therefore you found that wires being mysteriously cut and different aspects happening. Over time, as electricity becomes more reliable, people are happier, but there will always be a section which won't be. And you have to find ways in society to also onboard them and get them along, because you would like to have quote unquote enemies within the system.
Right.
And that requires that little degree of the holistic umbrella thinking to figure out, if you move this piece, what other pieces will get impacted and how.
And is that design approach, something you've used before and you're familiar with?
We have been, and I think it's evolving, because design itself is a very complex domain. How many elements and how many factors do you solve for? And you cannot always assess every aspect, nor can you solve for every aspect. But where we do come in from is try to see which are the different pieces which can come in which are the key pieces which can come in, or which are the key pieces which are likely to influence you either positively or negatively, and work at least with the core pieces. And I think across the social sector we've been doing that.
Yeah, I think there's an impression that it's a very esoteric approach, but actually when you kind of break it down, chart it out on its board, and you're right. If you can be huge, and then you go, okay, this is the bit that we need to focus in on, which is what y'all have done with water. So tell me why HUF has focused on water. Why you have your water for public good. How does it align with HUF's values? How is it that water has become the main guiding mission?
So we are in our 15th year of existence as a foundation. And in the very early days, there was some debate on what are the areas that the foundation should focus on. It may interest you to know that our original name of the foundation was HUVF, with the V standing for vitality.
Okay.
And however, somewhere around 2013, there was a intense internal discussion with the mother company, because the funds finally come from the mother company.
Of course.
And the purpose on where can we make a maximum impact, and taking a look at what are the needs of India. Of course, as a commercial company, many of the products that Hindustan Unilever makes involve the use of water. If you brush your teeth, you're using water. If you have a bath, you're using water. You make yourself a cup of tea, you're using water. So water is, of course, very central to the business of the organization as well. So it came together that, look, the thing that we really need to do, and that was around the time that the discussion around water security had just started. Remember, it's not water scarcity, it's more about water security. And 10, 12 years is a reasonably long time. But around that time that the call was made that the one thing that we shall focus on will be on helping making communities water secure, try and create different, because India is a very diverse country in every which way. So we find models which can work under different circumstances and then test it out on a large enough scale. We are at the end of the day a private foundation. We can't solve for a country of India's size, but make all these experiences and solutions available in the public domain, so that if others need to do it, they move on with it, take a 2.0, 3.0, that and the learning curve gets shortened very significantly.
Okay, I can see that. That completely makes sense in connecting the dots. We're talking about vitality. We also have a very another source of life, the animals that are maybe upstaging us here. You mentioned how how India is a very diverse country, and that must bring up a lot of challenges. So how do you tiptoe around those challenges? And do you find that you have designed innovative solutions, or that you're using tech to apply to some of those challenges?
Both. So while India is a very diverse country, so when we look at solutions, we look at solutions which are relevant to a particular context, whether it's the geophysical context, it is the social context, and so on. And for example, if it's a tribal community living in the hilly areas, the issues around water or concerns around water security are different. The social institutions are different. The government schemes supporting them are different. So that might have a very different kind of solution. Another aspect could be of an agrarian state like the Punjab, which is almost a rice bowl in a sense of India, but it has a completely different set of issues. So we have to use both. Tech is evolving so fast that it would be foolish not to use tech. Many of our partners themselves are using tech, but we also are able to support them with tech, and it's also helped that organizations like ours are also able to support startups who have the sharpest of tech developing ability, but don't have the ability to test it out or to see how it works to support lives in the villages. So tech is a given.
So give me some examples of those startups.
So I'll give you one example, which is so obvious and startling. Why did we irrigate? Fundamentally, it is to keep the soil moisture at a particular level. What happens if the soil dries? It's a suboptimal. If the soil moisture level is not right. What also happens if you over irrigate? Again, the soil moisture, there's too much. It's not really optimal. In parts of the country where electricity may be free or technology has evolved so much that you have powerful pumps, and it's okay if it's water, if it's excess, it's flowing off. How does it matter?
Yeah.
And who's going to take the trouble of switching it on and switching it off? A simple tech innovation using IoT would simply had a soil moisture instrument in your field, would send you a text message on your phone. Hey, please switch on the pump. Your soil is drying up. And similarly, once it reaches a level, it sends you a text that please shut it down. And we expect that the next
Could I have that technology for my home, please? It's just, of course.
And
turn the water pump off, turn it off.
Yeah. And if even that is too much of an effort, I believe the next innovation around that is that it will automatically switch it on for you and it'll switch off the pump for you.
Nice.
So if nothing else, you're not changing anything else, but something which is entirely wasteful has been taken care of. And this is something that one of the startups that we've supported through a particular partner took care of, and now it's being scaled up by the government.
What are your tricks? What are your checks and balances to make sure that which you're funding is working the way it should?
We are not a passive funder. So we work very closely with our partners, the ones that whom we support for their programs. We work on co-creating the programs with them. Remember, as a funder, we work with a very wide range of partners in different parts of the country, in different situations. I think one big contribution we make is being able to connect the dots. And suppose you are a civil society partner and you've started work somewhere. And you say, hey, hold on, this kind of work was done very effectively by another civil society partner in a different part of the country, and they had some great learnings. We make sure the two of you get connected. A team comes over for an exposure visit, comes and talks you through about their learning so that you can build on to it. The best part about working in the social impact sector is that there is no competition. Everyone is a collaborator and everyone is happy to collaborate. And those are the kind of nodal roles where organizations like ours play, and we are very proud that HUF plays this role.
And that sounds perfect the way that is the best of the corporate world, connecting the dots, and the best of the social sector, a more empathetic and humane approach coming together right there. That's a great example of how that works.
Thank you.
I would like to know how often you get into the field, how often you go out and meet people that change your perspective and give you insights and experience, and maybe you go to the dinner table and talk about these stories. What are the 2 or 3 stories that have stuck with you the most?
The reason I possibly do this job is because I get to go to the field. And I think that is where I get my energy from. That's where I get my oxygen from. On an average month, at least twice, I would be out in the field. And when we get into the field, we really go down to the villages. Nothing better than hearing it from the people who are there on ground, having a cup of tea with them, maybe sitting down on the ground and sharing their meal and hearing what the issues are, or how their lives are transforming, what their aspirations are. And the biggest delight has been to see how aspirational rural India is. So a couple of stories, and there's so many that I can share with you. My first visit was to an aspirational district in eastern Uttar Pradesh. Fairly traditional. And there a civil society partner was trying to build a cadre of young women, about 18, 20 kind of thing, to come and understand what are these and to talk about this to a farming community. The first time I visited, almost all the girls had been dropped off by their brothers or their fathers and so on their bike, or somebody from the organization was picking them up and dropping them back to their homes and so on. Almost all of them were daughters of the village.
Here.
Not any of the daughters-in-law.
Okay.
A year later when I went, almost all of these girls came on riding on their own two-wheelers,
Okay.
independent, and at least 30% of the group I met were married. They were the daughters-in-law, which in India is easy to spot because of the sindoor mark on the head. I mean, you say, look, this is how society has progressed so fast in a year that you're willing to let even your daughters-in-law out, and because you can see the difference that they are making, what they are contributing, what they're bringing to society. It's a badge of honor for the family itself. That was one fantastic story that I had. Let me share another one. This is from the tribal tracts of West Bengal, which is all undulating and the semi-hilly region. And so this is the story from where I picked up on those 200 wells have to be dug kind of thing. So these women, they rolled out some massive charts and it started explaining something to me. Unfortunately, I understand Bengali, having lived for 5 years in Bangladesh. Then I realized what they had in front of us. It looked very familiar. Why does it seem familiar? It took me straight to my class 8 or 9 geography, and they were topographical maps. They had learnt they had mapped their own area using those contour maps or the topographical maps, because water has one universal truth: it will only flow downwards. Okay. And based on that, where the soil type, what can be grown where the water can be harnessed and so on, they knew it all. And here you are saying that what you thought was a textbook geography lesson, which you had long forgotten, being put to use right there and then. So I've given you a story from the north, I've given you a story from the east. Let me give you one last story from the west. Okay. This is from some of the tribal areas of the state of Gujarat, which again has typically challenges in terms of water availability and so on. And for people like us who come from the commercial sector and we've done years of budgeting and so on, you have a straight handwritten budget which the NGO partner and the community members, the women, presenting to you, which is a water budget for the village. And a budget is essentially how much do I receive and how much do I expend. Okay. And they had a very deep understanding of, look, this is what I have, so this is how I have to allocate it and allot it, and I have to make sure that the two are in sync. Otherwise, I'll end up having a severe water deficit, which will affect our water security in the years to come. It's profound, and all of these things almost sound academic when you see it in front, and either people who are impacted putting it, and you realize how far each of these things go. So in this particular field, water numeracy is one of the big things that HUF pushes for, because we start from the know more principle.
Right.
If you know more, save more, use less. But you first need to know more. And this is where this comes in, that you start measuring something you've never measured before.
That's fascinating. And so much of the work that happens in the social sector is just about knowledge sharing, right? It's not as if the desire's not there, the skills aren't there. It's just actually passing the knowledge on so that people can do it themselves. Do you think corporates should be doing more?
Of what?
Should corporates be doing more to help rural India develop and transform?
India is the only large economy of a handful of a total of 8 or 9 economies. Many of them are very small, which has formal CSR laws.
That's true.
Right? So, really, India's a step ahead of most of the world, and all corporates are doing their bit. Which aspect that they would like to support would be, it's their own choice. But when I travel, I'm very delighted to see what many of the other corporates are doing through their foundations or through their CSR activities. And we do connect with them also, and we share both our learnings as well, ask them for learnings. And again, this is the nice part, that business secrets are never shared, but social sector secrets are widely shared. So we all collaborate, we don't compete, and it's always a delight to learn and learn from the best that is happening. And there's some very good work which is happening by different corporates in rural India in the social sector.
Well, this is a great place to bring in my final question. I know your time is tight, and I appreciate all the insights you've given us today. What would you say to those people who are in the corporate world and are thinking, I'm reaching the end here, I want something new, I want something different, something fulfilling, and I may be thinking, would that be the corporate, or would that be the development world, or perhaps they're going to be gentlemen and lady farmers? What would your message be to people who want to make that transition from the corporate world to the developing world?
Well, first of all, don't wait till you see that this is the end in the corporate world. No, this is a question of choice. And that's a choice you can make, and you can take that while you are in the peak of your corporate world. You might be at the age of 30. I would say spend some time in the corporate world to learn the rigor of the corporate world. That is very, very valuable. But then start traveling and seeing and sensing what exactly is happening in India, and with specific reference to rural India, because some of us have a better sense of what is happening in urban India. A great way is to start with the CSR wing or the foundations that your corporates may have, because it's not a wild jump into the completely different world of civil society and not-for-profit institutions. This still gives you some kind of a balanced view of a little bit of the corporate, and then you get exposed, and then you see how you feel. If you feel that you'd like 100% to kind of got across and move more from into the doing side, for all you know, you might find your happiest years are living in a village and helping transform it completely. You never know. But do give it a shot. You'll regret it if you haven't.
Nice. Well said. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom, and for being part of the Development Design Digest. And thank you very much for watching. We hope that you not only watch, that you like and you share it. And stay tuned more. Season 2 is coming up. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Lindy.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.